Chapters 7 through 9 of Space Viking by H. Beam Piper. Read by Mark Nelson. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. Space Viking 7. The outside view screen, which had been vacantly gray for over 3,000 hours, was now a vertiginous swirl of color, the indescribable color of a collapsing hyperspatial field. No two observers ever saw it alike, and no imagination could vision the actuality. Trask found that he was holding his breath. So, he noticed, was Otto Harkeman beside him. It was something, evidently, that nobody got used to. Even Gwat Kirby, the astrogator, was sitting with his pipe clenched in his mouth, staring at the screen. Then, in an instant, the stars, which had literally not been there before, filled the screen with a blaze of splendor against the black velvet backdrop of normal space. Dead in the center, brighter than all the rest, Hurtado's star, the sun of Tanith, burned yellowly. The light from it was 10 hours old. "Pretty good, Gwat," Harkeman said, picking up his cup. "Good, Kahena, it was perfect," somebody else said. Kirby was relighting his pipe. "Oh, I suppose it'll have to do," he grudged around the stem. He had gray hair and an untidy mustache, and nothing was ever quite good enough to satisfy him. "I could have made it a little closer. Need 3 micro-jumps now, and I'll have to cut the last one pretty fine. Now don't bother me." He began punching buttons for data and fiddling with set screws and verniers. For a moment, in the screen, Trask could see the face of Andre Dunnan. He blinked it away and reached for his cigarettes, and put one in his mouth, wrong end too. When he reversed it and snapped his lighter, he saw that his hand was trembling. Otto Harkeman must have seen that too. "Take it easy, Lucas," he whispered. "Keep your optimism under control. We only think he might be here." "I'm sure he is. He has to be." No, that was the way Dunnan himself thought. Let's be sane about this. "We have to assume he is. If we do, and he isn't, it's a disappointment. If we don't, and he is, it's a disaster." Others, it seemed, thought the same way. The battle station's board was a solid blaze of red light for full combat readiness. "All right," Kirby said. "Jumping." Then he twisted the red handle to the right and shoved it in, viciously. Again the screen boiled with colored turbulence. Again dark and mighty forces stalked through the ship, like demons in a sorcerer's tower. The screen turned featureless gray as the pickup stared blindly into some dimensionless no-place. Then it convulsed with color again, and this time Hurtado's star, still in the center, was a coin-sized disk, with little sparks of its 7 planets scattered around it. Tanith was the third. The inhabitable planet of a G-class system usually was. It had a single moon, barely visible in the telescopic screen, 500 miles in diameter and 50,000 off-planet. "You know," Kirby said, as though he was afraid to admit it, "that wasn't too bad. I think we can make it in 1 more micro-jump." Sometime, Trask supposed, he'd be able to use the expression micro about a distance of 55 million miles, too. "What do you think about it?" Harkeman asked him, as deferentially as though seeking expert guidance instead of examining his apprentice. "Where should Gwat put us?" "As close as possible, of course." That would be a light second, at the least. If the Nemesis came out of hyperspace any closer to anything the size of Tanith, the collapsing field itself would kick her back. "We have to assume Dunnan's been there at least 900 hours. By that time, he could have put in a detection station, and maybe missile launchers on the moon." The Enterprise carries 4 pinnaces, the same as the Nemesis. In his place, I'd have at least 2 of them on off-planet patrol. So let's accept it that we'll be detected as soon as we come out of the last jump, and come out with the moon directly between us and the planet. If it's occupied, we can knock it off on the way in." "A lot of captains would try to come out with the moon masked off by the planet," Harkonnen said. "Would you?" The big man shook his tousled head. "No. If they have launchers on the moon, they could launch at us in a curve around the planet, by data relayed from the other side, and we'd be at a disadvantage replying. Just go straight in. You hearing this, Gwat?" "Yeah, it makes sense. Sort of. Now stop pestering me. Charles, look here a minute." The normal space astrogator conferred with him. Alvin Carford, the executive officer, joined them. Finally, Kirby pulled out the big red handle, twisted it, and said, "All right, jumping." He shoved it in. "I suppose I cut it too fine. Now we'll get kicked back 500,000 miles." The screen convulsed again. When it cleared, the third planet was directly in the center. Its small moon, looking almost as large, was a little above and to the right. Sunlit on one side and planetlit on the other. Kirby locked the red handle, gathered up his tobacco and lighter and things from the ledge, and pulled down the cover of the instrument console, locking it. "All yours, Charles," he told Renner. 8 hours to atmosphere," Renner said. "That's if we don't have to waste a lot of time shooting up Junior there." Van Larch was looking at the moon in the 600-power screen. "I don't see anything to shoot. 500 miles, 1 planet buster, or 4 or 5 thermonuclears," he said. It wasn't right, Trask thought indignantly. Minutes ago, Tanith had been 6.5 billion miles away. Seconds ago, 50-odd million. And now, 250,000, and looking close enough to touch in the screen. It would take them 8 hours to reach it. Why on hyperdrive you could go 48 trillion miles in that time? Well, it took a man just as long to walk across a room today as it had taken Pharaoh the First, or Homo sape. In the telescopic screen, Tanith looked like any picture of any Terra-type planet from space, with cloud-blurred contours of seas and continents and a vague mottling of gray and brown and green, topped at the pole by an ice cap. None of the surface features, not even the major mountain ranges or rivers, were yet distinguishable, but Harkonnen and Charles Renner and Alvin Carford and the other old hand seemed to recognize it. Carford was talking by phone to Paul Koreff, the signals and detection officer, who could detect nothing from the moon, and nothing that was getting through the Van Allen belt from the planet. Maybe they'd guessed wrong at that. Maybe Dunnan hadn't gone to Tanith at all. Harkonnen, who had the knack of putting himself to sleep at will, with some 6th or nth sense posted as a sentry, leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. Trask wished he could too. It would be hours before anything happened, and until then he needed all the rest he could get. He drank more coffee, chain-smoked cigarettes. He rose and prowled about the command room, looked at screens. Signals and detection was getting a lot of routine stuff: Van Allen count, micrometeor count, surface temperature, gravitation field strength, radar and scanner echoes. He went back to his chair and sat down, staring at the screen image. The planet didn't seem to be getting any closer at all, and it ought to. They were approaching at better than escape velocity. He sat and stared at it. He woke with a start. The screen image was much larger now. River courses and shadow lines of mountains were clearly visible. It must be early autumn in the northern hemisphere. There was snow down to the 60th parallel, and a belt of brown was pushing south against the green. Harkonnen was sitting up, eating lunch. By the clock, it was 4 hours later. "Have a good nap?" he asked. "We're picking up stuff now. Radio and screen signals. Not much, but some. The locals